Welcome to the Tabletop Nights podcast. Yes, Greg, I'm doing more energy. Joining me is Greg and Josh. We're sort of relaunching the podcast in a way where we're going to start having a bit more segmented areas of the podcast. We want to have recurring themes and start doing lists. And Greg's actually going to be doing a show and tell later, we'll see how that goes. It could be completely boring.
Yeah, and we thought we'd introduce some quality too. So
absolutely. So whoa, podcast. All right, cool.
Wow, did you see that?
Before we get started, though, a little bit of housekeeping. A amazing user on our YouTube channel on the last podcast said that there is a website called Anchor, where they allow you to host your podcast for free. So if you want to listen to the audio version, it is on anchor.fm/tabletopnights. The link is in the description. Also, we're currently live streaming the live version of the podcast on twitch.tv/tabletopnights. But if you're watching it on YouTube, welcome. This is obviously what we're doing it for mainly. My power just went out there a little bit, so sorry. It is very windy here today. Do you guys have wind?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I do, but I've given up on those beans. It's horrendous outside.
Massive wind. So if the podcast suddenly drops, you know why. All right. First thing we're going to be talking about today is Nemesis Lockdown, which is a funny title. Very current in theme.
Yeah, that's Awaken Realms new offering coming out, I think.
Yeah, so you made that, you told me about that, Greg. Before we get into that, though, I thought we'd talk about Nemesis, the original game, which I've played. I know Greg's played. Have you played that before, Josh?
I haven't. My experience with Nemesis has been watching you guys on YouTube play it, basically. So, no, it's one game I've always wanted to play. I've just never been able to actually play it with anyone. I don't own it. So
Tabletop Nights is it's a hard team to get into, and unfortunately you just missed out on that recording session.
Understand. No, fair enough.
No. I played it twice. The first time I played it, Greg, I hated it, and you know that. I was very bitter, which is why we never released that video.
He was so salty. He was just cracking it, man.
So basically, Nemesis is I think it's 1 to 5 player game.
Oh, yep. Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, it is 5. It's 5 main characters. Yep.
Yeah. So you're on a spaceship that's being hoarded by aliens. Basically, you've got a secret objective that you have to meet. It could be an objective to help your fellow men just to survive, or to actually be a bit of an asshole and be the only remaining player, or to kill player 2 or whatever. So that's where it sort of comes in. You never reveal your objectives to the other players, and that's sort of where the excitement is. And you don't find out till the very end when you've either escaped or been killed or whatever. But even then, the excitement doesn't end, as Greg knows all too well.
Yeah, until the very last contamination reveals.
Yes, absolutely. So when you're in the escape shuttle or the isolation chamber, you then, at the end of the game, reveal cards. And if you have like a face hugger, stomach bug thing type alien in you, you can still die at the end of the game.
I like the way you said isolation chamber. Then I think you're still thinking coronavirus. You mean like the hibernatorium?
Hibernatorium. Sorry, but which is still sort of an isolation chamber in a sense. Yeah.
Actually, we could do with some of those now. Maybe
that would be good.
I'd love to hibernate for 6 months and come out and go, oh shit, it's over.
Yeah, and then you realize it ended like 4 months before. Yeah. You just wasted 4 months of your life.
Good sleep though.
So Nemesis, I would say. So we talked about this yesterday, Greg. I was sort of trying to find out a list of like 9 essential sort of games that board gamers have, not like Monopoly and all that. And I recommend, and I said Nemesis, and you're sort of like, no, I wouldn't really say every board gamer has that. And is it because of the price, do you think, or?
No, I think I don't think it's as approachable as some other games out there. So, I'd go Zombicide, say, over Nemesis for your average gamer, right? Sure. So, Zombicide, I think, is an essential, and you don't need all of them like I have. If you've got one good one and you can bring it out all the time and play with it, awesome.
On the Australian Tabletop Nights like buying sell group, you see people constantly trying to buy Nemesis. I think there was 30,000 backers for the first campaign, and it came in like a few different waves. I know you got the core game, and then
Yeah. The other stuff came like a good 8 or 9 months later, which was the 5th player expansion, I think. Oh, sorry, no. It had a few extra bits and bobs, the 3D terrain and the Carnomorphs and the Kings and stuff like that. So,
have you played any other games that are very similar to Nemesis, or is that a very like its own thing?
I would actually say that Rightbusters is getting close to that.
Okay.
Like I've played a few of those now just by myself, and I've put 2 online. Each time I'm making less mistakes, but but I've got sort of the noise thing and the spawning and things popping up a bit more unexpectedly. It feels different, definitely, to Zombicide. So I'm kind of leaning it's a bit more Nemesis. So I reckon somewhere in between.
And Josh, you said you wanted to play it before you saw us actually play it. What's the appeal from an outsider who's never played it before?
Well, for me, I quite like the thought of a game that you're all kind of working towards the same goal, but at the same time, you don't absolutely know what someone else is trying to work towards. So it's kind of that hidden information, but at the same time being a cooperative game, I find quite fascinating. At the same time, I can understand why it wouldn't be for everyone. I can understand when you put 2 hours or 2.5 hours into the game and then find that your mate who you've been working with the whole time just wanted to kill you isn't ideal. But for me, it was just a game that I'd heard a lot about. And I know there are some people really like it, some people really don't. It was just the game that I wanted to play just to see how I'd feel about it, because I haven't played a game like that before, really.
Yeah, Greg sort of was always like, we should play Nemesis. I'm so glad that we got around to doing it, and that I demanded basically every day. I was like, Greg, we must play this game again, because the first time I just didn't give it a proper go. But look, I had reasons that the first time I played it was really rough for me. So basically, I didn't do anything wrong, and I've said this on a podcast before. I didn't do anything wrong, but no matter what I did, I was getting killed. I was getting wounds. I was spawning in rooms with fire, and the fire was spreading and chasing me. And we played for about an hour, and the whole time I didn't do one thing but run away, which is sort of the experience Dave had in the second one. But how many times have you played it now, Greg?
Oh, probably 5 or 6 times, but it's one of those games that unless you play it regularly, you quickly forget how it plays.
Yeah.
And what the strategies are, and a lot of those little fussy rules and the spawning out of the bags and things like that. Whereas, you can almost go into any version of Zombicide and it's pretty much the same, and you can keep going. And so I think that's why it's not one that I regularly bring out. But if you've got the right group and they love the theme, it's a really good one.
I do love the theme, which is why I'm excited about Nemesis Lockdown, which is scheduled at the moment. You can't really go off schedules, especially with everything that's going on, for a May/June Kickstarter. It's a standalone version, which excites me because as somebody that doesn't have the original Nemesis, and chances are I won't have my hands on that for a very long time. That's pretty exciting that it is a standalone version. It's a little bit different though. So basically, I think the Nemesis is on a ship that's flat, basically a flat ship, whereas the Nemesis Lockdown is a leveled map, I believe. You don't actually physically get levels, I don't think, but they do say it is stairs and elevators to access the different levels, so that's cool. Did you guys read up on the preview campaign that they had out?
Well, the only thing I saw was that there's kind of like an end game part that you don't really know. You can only find out information by eliminating other theories along the way.
Yes.
And I just saw the Nemesis name and thought, yeah, I'll probably be interested for sure. What about you, Josh?
Yeah, I'm not sure whether the current Nemesis, does that have a solo mode?
Yes, it does it?
I think it does. I do think it does. Let me bring up some. We've actually got,
because sometimes I get confused with what's the other one I've got? Oh man, edit this bit out, will you? And anyone listening right now, don't just ignore this bit.
I think it does have a solo mode. I'm pretty sure it does.
I know life form's the other one. I think I was thinking of that definitely does.
Yeah, I did see in the new one that, well, in Lockdown, that there is a advanced solo mode with a companion app.
Okay.
That's
Yep.
obviously non-essential, but it seems quite cool for someone like me who actually quite enjoys solo play in board games. That's something that I would be keen to try.
Yeah, look, I'm pretty sure one of the mission comics actually leads you through a solo. You can play it like a solo campaign.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Which would be a completely different experience, I guess, because you don't have those secret objectives that you don't know what the other people are doing. But as Greg mentioned, there is a sort of in Nemesis, it's very like I need to go to Mars. I'm going to turn the ship facing Mars. Whereas now in Nemesis Lockdown, there's I don't know, there's like a what is it called? I wrote it down here. But where we go. Red alert or something like that, where you don't know if you're going to activate the end goal. It is a process of elimination, which I think will be really fun because but it's sort of frustrating because it does add another level of randomness to it and luck in a sense, which is a little frustrating for me.
Well, look, I suppose because it's elimination, though, it's what you do with that information and how much you can share. So it'd be interesting to see how that mechanic works. And I think I'm not sure. Are they offering all the previous stuff on the new Kickstarter? Does it mention
I
that
think
at
they
all?
did say they have options for that, and they are hoping. Again, it's early days; they don't know, but they are hoping that it will be compatible with the previous version. So they do want you to be able to use the previous aliens and whatnot, as well as the new ones that will be on there. One thing that they did note was there's going to be a lot of lighting in this game. So whether you have a layer of a ship and you're working together to make sure that area is well lit and whatnot. So that's going to be really cool and a bit intense. And they also said that the movement and the noise is much more intense as well.
So apparently you can use characters and alien species from the previous Nemesis. However, they won't be selling the Nemesis core box in this Kickstarter.
Okay.
But you will be able to access previous expansions, apparently. So they're not going to be selling the core box, but it seems like they are going to be selling previous expansions to the original Nemesis.
Which is a shame because, like I said, a lot of people are really struggling to get their hands on a copy of Nemesis. I feel like that's lost income for them for sure.
Well, maybe the retailers are starting to pick it up now.
Yeah, possibly.
Maybe it's mainstream enough. Does it have a lot of add-ons and bits and pieces? Because Awaken Realms are kind of, they do tend to have quite a few, particularly like things like Lords of Hellas and that. There was lots of little boxes you could add on. I'm hoping we get back to more. This is a really good core game that you just want to keep replaying and getting better at without having to think, oh, which variant are we going to play this week? So,
yeah.
It does seem to have a few different boxes on the actual draft, I suppose the preview page that's currently out. So that probably suggests to me that there's going to be a few different either campaigns or expansions with maybe different aliens and things like that, but not sure. I do know. I don't know how you guys feel about this, but I find it a bit. I'm unsure whether I like when a game's bought out on Kickstarter and they have like 6 expansions that come with the game.
I hate that. I hate it.
It's like, well, either those expansions you feel are kind of essential to the game, so they probably should have been in the core game, or shouldn't you just bring out the first game first and then the expansions come later?
Yeah, look, I think as long as it prolongs gameplay and maybe introduces some new elements. But again, like I said, I'll pull out a favorite that's a one-box game, like say in the Hall of the Mountain King, right? Which is now retailing pretty cheap. Like in Australia, it's only like $55. You can get it at one of the stores here. And you just want to get better at it. You want to try it again and try a different strategy. And how can I block my opponent? So if every time you chuck in because I think gone are the days where people only have 3 board games on their shelf and they keep replaying it, right? You don't. You go and grab the next one, the next one, the next one. So I think it's a mistake if they go too far down that road.
Yeah.
Sorry, computer's just spazzing out. I'm going to close a few windows here because, all right. Yeah, look, whenever Greg has a new board game, there's about 6-7 boxes. I get a little bit of, like, we'll never be able to play all that. That's like, but he's a collector, so there is a sense that you don't actually have to buy, you don't have to pay extra for all those things, and you're not necessarily going to miss out. I've never felt like I've missed out on a board game that Greg has because we've only played the core game. I feel like it's really is only for those hardcore fans of that game or collectors, really. I'm already waiting. I would love some more expansions for Lord of the Rings Journeys in Middle Earth. That would be awesome. I would like some extra content boxes for that because I'm a big fan of that game. But in a sense, it's one of those things where you only have to get the expansions if you want. It is a little bit weird though. If it was the video game industry, they'd be judged pretty hard. Like, shouldn't this just be part of the normal game type thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look, I've been banging on about Reichbusters lately because it's the latest thing, but I think there's like 3 boxes for that, right? Even though it looked like a lot in the unboxing, there's kind of 3 main boxes. One's just like one big critter, like this guy.
Oh, massive.
Right. The rest is mainly different heroes you can use. Right, which is good. So that mixes up your gameplay. You can try a different strat next time you go out. So I thought that one was a really good balance for a change. It was just enough expansion stuff to make it interesting.
But obviously, if you just bought the core game, it'd just be the one box.
Yeah, and you get about 8 or 9 missions, maybe 10 out of the core box.
So yeah, Nemesis Lockdown, May, June. Let's talk about Reichbusters. That's been doing really well on the channel, so good job with that, Greg. A lot of people. Do you know how many people backed that roughly at the top of your head? Because I know you were saying it didn't get as much attention as you thought.
I think it was about 6,000.
Okay, so that's really weird because usually when we do release a video that has about 6,000 backers, it gets views, but not to this point. So there obviously is a lot of people that missed out on it. Perhaps, I don't know.
Yeah, a few of the comments on the videos have been saying, "Oh, I wish I'd seen this one when it came up," and it's. I don't know. Maybe people were just thinking Mythic Games. It's all Joan of Arc, and it's all, it got hidden by some of the rush for that. Maybe.
Yeah. Right. Potentially. I'm just going to close another window because it is lagging up a storm here.
How have you felt about Reichbusters in general, Greg? Obviously, you played through a few missions now. Is it what you expected it to be? Is it different to what you thought it might be? Obviously, there's a fair few rules in the game. How have you gone about that?
I know Z Garcia from Dice Tower gave it a bit of a shellacking, I think, but the rules are a bit fiddly. It's sort of written like a bit of a narrative, so it teaches you start here and work your way through the book, and by the time you get to the end, you might have forgotten some of the bits at the start because the same concept is mentioned in a few different places in the book. So until you've read it through a few times, played it through a few times, I'm lucky because we've got viewers and they can go, well, you got that wrong. You got that wrong. And I go, okay, I didn't read it that way. Sometimes I've absolutely got it wrong. Other times I've interpreted it the wrong way. So that's why I really love when we get those comments because you go, yeah, okay, I can see how you got that. So the more I play it, the more I figure it out. But I've said this on the videos, as an experience, I find it more enjoyable than like Zombicide, because Zombicide starts to feel a bit samey. So it doesn't matter which version you've got. It's characters, character boards, roll the dice, do it the same. Now, this is very similar in look to Zombicide, and some of the mechanics are, but I think the spawning's much more different. The enemy patrols pop up all over the place. I've really enjoyed it. Now, I don't actually mind playing it solo myself. I've probably played it 7 or 8 times now, even not on film.
Is it the type of game that when you are playing it solo, you're like, oh, I'd love to play as another person. Like, this would be so much fun.
Oh, yeah, because what happens is things like if you're in the same area, your team can help contribute to the attack, right? They can play cards and things into that mix, so it's a bit more cooperative. And there's some big moments, like for example, I was practicing mission 2, and I thought, great, I've all these guys that come into one area on the map, and all I have to do is chuck in a grenade, right? So I did that, but it gave 1 wound to the guy who I'm supposed to be rescuing. But he's got 2 wounds. He's
The
got 2 wounds.
sacrifice.
That's okay. But there's also a tracker bomber in that area. And when that gets wounded and blows up, it causes another wound to everything in the room. So I actually killed the scientist I was trying to save. So, oh, no. So I've done all that hard work and I could wind it back, but it's too hard. So it's like I've got to really play it again. But the way the patrols turn up through different doors, it's just a cracker. I'm loving it. Really enjoying it.
So the plan with this podcast is to do it every fortnight, which I mentioned before. We are hoping to do the next fortnight a sort of top 10 list of solo games we would recommend. So you might see that on the list potentially. Up to Greg if he wants to chuck that in his 3.
Yeah. One thing I did notice about Reichbusters, Greg, whilst watching you, is it difficult controlling 4 characters? I've always thought this when playing a game solo. Is it difficult when you have to remember things about numerous characters?
Look, the one thing I'm getting better at is that they can all have individual skills. So as you get heroic points and at the end of the mission, you can add more skills. And they're all little things that go on their player boards, but you go, the accounting will become a lot more tracking after you get into like 2 or 3 missions, because you'll go, oh, I forgot they've got focus, vengeance, stealthy, right? And they all have little intricacies. So I'd say you can definitely play it without all the skills. The cards seem to work okay because there's a lot of sharing the information anyway. So I don't find that a bit difficult. But, you know, I'm always forgetting to use focus for Red Hawk, or I'm always forgetting to do something for someone. And then you go, oh, shit, I just lost to that enemy when actually if I'd remember that, I could have re-rolled that blank one, right? So there's lots of things that can allow you to do re-rolls and defensive moves and stuff like that. But, yeah, as 2 players could definitely do it okay, but 1 each, that's the sweet spot. It's got to be. And you'd have a lot of fun. I think when we can all get back together in the same room again, I'd definitely knock out the campaign with you guys.
Whereas on the opposite spectrum, Arena felt a little bit empty when you're playing 1 person. It definitely felt better when you're playing 2.
Yeah.
So it's weird. It is weird. It does get a little frustrating though when you are playing games by yourself and you're like, oh damn it, I forgot to do that. Oh, I'll just do it now. Like, but then
and then you feel like you're cheating yourself.
Yeah. I do that all the time with Journey. He's like, oh, I would have gained that anyway, so I'll just grab it now.
So you do cheat.
Right. Yeah, a little bit. Like I'll be like, oh. And then when I was recording Journeys in Middle Earth by myself, I was like, now I should have done this. Normally I would, but because we're on camera, I won't.
Awesome.
All right, so that was cool. Our next segment, show and tell. So, Greg, you have a board game of what, 800-900 board games at this stage.
So for people who are going to be watching this later, you're going to have like a nice little banner that comes up and goes show and tell or something like that. You know?
Yeah,
with Greg's voice.
Some big graphic. I think you should. Yeah. So I brought the beautiful Dragonlance. So Dragonlance was a book series from there was a company called TSR. I think they're still around. They were doing lots of sort of dragony fantasy stuff. So Laura and Tracy Hickman, they came up with the Dragonlance series, and then Tracy Hickman met up with Margaret. Who is it? Margaret Weiss. And they wrote a whole heap of series of books about prophets and prophecies and fantasy and you name it. But this was a board game I bought in 1988.
You actually bought it in 88, did you?
I bought it in 1988. Yeah. That's why it's so beaten up looking. It's just kind of, you can see it here on my screen. You can see all the cracks and crevices. But when I can't show you the back right now because everything will fall out. It's one of those boxes that it'll just go berserk, and I'll show you why in a minute. But it just captured my imagination when I saw it. Now I'll talk a bit about the gameplay in a second. But
is this game in your Dungeon of Doom or up in the main collection area?
I know it's in the main area.
Oh, good.
It holds a special place in my heart.
Well, if you're curious, it's a 5.3 on BGG. So.
Yeah, so it's awesome. I don't need to talk about gameplay now. So when I lift the lid, look, remember cellophane?
You know, it is as I get more board games, it is the type of thing I want to do. I do want to buy older games and start collecting older ones. So that's something I definitely would. I'd love like, a really early copy of Monopoly. That would be something I'd love to have.
Yeah. Good luck with that. That's something I'd love to burn. So this is 2 to 6 players, ages 10 and up, and there's 2 levels of play. We have basic and advanced.
Wow.
Which is pretty good for back then, I think, to have 2 levels of play.
Well, and if you look at the beautiful glossy color booklet, right, it's got some stuff, lots of text, some magic cards, things like that.
Is it written in ye old English or?
No, it's perfectly legible.
Okay, good.
Lots of text, isn't there? It's like
I'll just quickly show you a couple of bits here. But the board I thought the board was fantastic. Like it was really massive. Right, it's a big board.
That's pretty nice. I like the look of that.
Right, and then you've got like a little tower in the middle, and maybe someone can find a picture of what the tower and stuff looks like when I come back off here. But you got this little tower that you build in the middle. And it has there's all these different gates that you have to fly through. And
look at that styrofoam. That is medieval.
You ever had a styrofoam insert, hey? That's why I said I couldn't turn up and show you the bottom of the box.
Yeah.
Literally, it all just falls out.
Yeah.
But yeah, the towers go in these little gates and things. There's the Dragon Lance.
Oh, so there's only one of those.
Because what you're trying to do is you're trying to fly from your area around to the back of the tower, go in through your coloured gate, and grab the Dragon Lance and get back and land at your territory.
Looks like a broomstick.
So it goes in the little dragon like that, just snaps in beautifully.
Nice. So that's literally what the game is about.
Dragon
Lance. Piece of plastic right there.
So you've got all these dragons,
and
right?
Lance,
as you lift
and a lance.
As you lift this dragon, like the bases always fall off, right?
Yeah.
But then what happens is as you're going forward, you can only go up 1 level of height, or you can go down 2 levels of height, right? And then you can turn and things like that. And they measure height with all these tokens.
Wow.
So what you do is you have big piles of these flying dragons on your board.
Sitting on those tokens.
Right?
Oh,
sitting on that. Right, and then you try and this is what happens. Basically, every time you play, is it just falls. Someone knocks the table, and all the dragons go flying everywhere.
I was wondering that actually.
There's like these flying citadels that go around the tower, and they have different abilities. Look, you can go there and get the flute of wind dancing.
Ooh,
nice.
The staff of Magius, dragon armor, all these different things. But that can only go to one of your dragons. But there's no way of indicating which dragon's actually carrying some of these things. So your hero's on one of your dragons, but you can't actually indicate which is your hero dragon.
Right.
So I started using like red paint to actually paint them so you could actually signify some of that stuff, right? So heaps of beautiful cards. There's no linen finish here. I don't think linen existed in 1988. Lots of beautiful cards. But look, honestly, when you set it, I'm actually going to turn it up so you can see the base.
Uh-oh.
And to help with the mess. So get ready.
Weigh it down with some bricks.
No, it's just going to go everywhere, but that's okay.
Oh, God, that sound is...
So when it's all set up...
Oh, wow.
Like, it looks pretty sweet.
It does look cool.
That is pretty cool.
See how shiny those dragons are, the gold ones? They're not like that inside.
So I have a few comments here on the BGG. A friend of mine still has a copy and we used to play it 30 years ago. It was a neat concept for the game with the different elevations, but I recall the finicky pieces were frustrating, making it less desirable to play it regularly. So basically what you said about knocking them over seems like a recurring theme.
Yeah, because you want to do like a big dive. You got 10 pieces under it, and every time you move it, it's just wobbling around. It's just crazy.
I just love the fact that the Dragon Lance is that tiny bit of plastic that is basically the basis of the whole game. And yet now you think about like Return to Dark Tower, and it has like this incredible piece of technology sitting there in the middle of the table. And yet back then, 1988. It was all about that little plastic dragon lance.
That lance would have been like the best thing ever. Like, oh! So we've just lost Josh's webcam a little
Yeah,
bit.
Josh, you're frozen for some reason.
Can you hear me still?
Yeah.
But this might be a good time to talk about your Barack Obama hat you're wearing.
It's the perfect phrase.
That's great.
Thanks.
Why have you got a Barack Obama hat, mate?
Well, for one, it's not Barack Obama.
Oh.
No, it's an Australian rules footballer here. So for viewers that live in Australia, you may know of Eddie Betts, who is
the great Carlton player. The great Carlton player.
The great Carlton player who played for Adelaide also. This is actually an Adelaide Crows beanie.
Do you go for Adelaide, do you?
No, well, my partner's brother plays for Adelaide.
Ah, okay.
So there you go.
So there's a lot of footy in your family.
There is a lot of footy in my family.
I was actually watching a rerun because they've got on Channel 7 at the moment of the old football games. It's awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
I love how we get all the viewers, by the way, while there's a frozen webcam. Everyone starts coming in to watch it. Anyway, sorry.
That's right. I think Josh's performance has been pretty frozen anyway, to be honest. Let's go. So here's a little game called Watergate, a little 2-player game. So if you can get this in your home with someone, even your partner or the little lady wife, or whatever.
Based off the cover, it is based off the actual Watergate.
The Watergate scandal,
okay.
yeah. So
that's the
it's
hotel.
Like it's like a very light Twilight Struggle or Making of the President.
Okay.
It's really it's essentially. I'll just give you a quick run through.
Is there a section where Forrest Gump is warning the hotel about the lack of lights in the other room?
No. Did he meet Nixon? I know he met JFK, didn't he, in Forrest Gump?
There's a bit where he's in a hotel and he's calling them and he's like, oh, the people downstairs don't have any lights because I can see their torches flashing around.
Ah, that's right.
Classic.
That's right. Look, thematically, one player just plays a newspaper editor and one player plays the presidency, and you're just collecting tokens. There's a little track here where you push and pull different other tokens, and you're really just trying to build a path of evidence from Nixon to 2 of the suspects. So it's essentially just a little abstract placement game here, but it's all this great card play that allows you to move things and stuff each other up. So it's sort of you can play it as a movement or as an event. So very much like those other Twilight Struggle games.
Okay. So it is just a 2-player game. They're based off the
just
box.
a 2-player game,
cool.
And it's fun and it's tense and it's simple.
Would you say that you have to be familiar with the Watergate scandal to
Absolutely
play it?
not, but thematically it fits beautifully. Okay. It's one of the best themed, very simple abstract games that I've played. Really enjoyed it.
Well, it looks pretty cool.
So get out and get that one, kids.
Well, actually, there was something that Josh was going to mention last week. That there's, I'm not sure if it's still active, but the coronavirus board game on Kickstarter.
What?
Yeah.
There was one, yeah. I don't think it's still active. It is the Frozen Man speaking as well.
Hi, Frozen.
I'll just put a photo there of you. Don't worry.
Josh,
about it.
Are you frozen?
I am, yes.
Let it go. Let it go. There's a joke for the kids.
Yeah, good one. I like it. No, I don't know whatever happened to that on Kickstarter, to be honest. I'm not sure I think it was actually being funded at the time, but I think the campaign's finished now.
Probably.
There was a coronavirus board game, believe it or not, and I think it was funded. It wasn't asking for a lot. In fact, I think it was asking for like 330 Australian dollars.
Where was the money going to? A good cause, or?
I think it was just going to the people making this coronavirus board game.
To fund the board game. What do you...
yeah, but I would have thought anyway.
A good old print and play.
Yeah, I'm not sure about it. But on Watergate, actually, Greg, I know Tom Vassell from the Dice Tower loved Watergate.
Yeah?
Yep, loved Watergate, recommended it very highly, and said that you don't have to come in knowing anything about Watergate, but it actually can teach you a lot about Watergate by playing the game.
That's
true.
That's awesome, because I don't really know anything about it, to be honest. I know what it is, but...
All right, Victor, over this break, you need to watch All the President's Men. Find that movie and watch it.
How old is it though? Because Daisy won't watch it with me if it's too old.
Well, it's be from the 80s, but it's about the Watergate scandal. It's Robert Redford and Dustin Hoffman, and it's fantastic. It's based on a book by someone who was involved at the time. It might have even been I can't remember who wrote it. I don't know if it's Woodward and Bernstein, but it is an amazing story.
I can't seem to find this game on Kickstarter, the Corona one.
No,
But it's
No,
not.
neither can I.
Kickstarter's not the most intuitive search engine, to be honest.
Oh, clipping, man, clipping. Your level just went way up.
Did I really?
Yeah, your voice level went a bit crackly.
Oh, crackly. So it's not loud.
Well, that is.
So I don't really want to try and fix this Zoom thing whilst we're doing this.
No, you're
because I
right.
feel like
It's all right, mate. You've never looked
literally
better.
close the meeting. Thanks, mate.
This is really weird because this is what was happening when we played Dice Zone. Remember, my levels kept going up and down. I literally didn't touch anything.
So for
Oh, you're back.
oh, there you go. You're back. And for
Oh.
anyone who's listening
Hello.
and not watching, this is not a tech support show. Just in case you were wondering.
That's true. And all the show and tell Greg just did, useless for the audio version.
Wow.
Because he literally, I didn't even think about that. So, welcome to the audio view, listeners, and hope you enjoyed the show and tell.
The show, the listen and tell.
How have you
Too
guys
fun.
been? How's the ISO going?
Well, for me, I don't mind it, to be quite honest. Like, I mean, you get to sit here and play games.
Yeah.
Like, you're kind of forced to do that, which in a weird way, as much as it's not ideal, in the circumstances, it's kind of like it gives you an opportunity to actually sit there and play the games that you probably weren't playing before because you just didn't have the time of the day to do it.
Yeah, for sure. It'd be good, like, if every year there was a coronavirus, like, just for 2 months. No, just so you can catch up.
No. Can we call it something different? Because
Yeah.
a lot of people are very ill or dead.
Oh, it's true. Sorry, that is a little bit insensitive.
Yeah, a little
Yeah,
bit.
I know what you were trying to say there.
Yeah.
Just like a pause on the world for 2 months, but let's make it a pause that no one actually dies from.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't mind the self isolation. It's I mean, Greg and I and yourself, like, we're all just loving the hobbies at the moment. Like, it's like the perfect time to be a hobbyist for sure.
And look, I've got a lot of people I manage at work who are the way they've lifted to spend the time with their kids and do school studies and be involved in what's going on. There's a lot of positives that we need to take out of what's going on at the moment. And I think it's been spectacular.
For sure.
Mm.
For sure.
I think it'll change. It'll just change behavior, won't it? Really, after this, and you would like to think that it wouldn't take something like this to change people's behavior, but unfortunately, you got to try and look for the positives out of the situation. And I think that's one thing that will come out of it. I think people's behaviors will actually change. I think people will now realize that, they actually can work from home
Yeah.
rather than having to be in the office all the time, for example. So there's going to be things that come out of this that, will be positive in a really bad situation.
That'd be
Look,
cool to be a salesperson working from home, like on webcam feed. Like, hey, do you want to buy that couch?
Yeah, we're outside your front door here.
Yeah.
The biggest positive for me is I've learned how to play a few other games online, like Space Base. So, Josh, I'm hanging out for a game of Space Base with you because I've played 5 times and I've won 4 times, and I haven't played
Really?
you yet.
Mm.
Really? Well, Greg, what they say is if you're a really good teacher at a game, it means that other people should beat you at the game. So maybe I've just taught you that well that you're really good at it.
I don't really remember you teaching me, but that's okay. I remember Glenn and Claire teaching me the game.
No, yeah. So I love Space Base. So I think I said this after our podcast last time. I think it's my favorite game at the moment.
It's a cracker.
and-
I'm waiting for the core. I've got the command station and the Shy
Pluto expansion. Yeah. So it's one that just the name of the game, Space Base, it just doesn't capture much imagination really at all. Everyone here's the game and they're like, that can't be good. Like it just can't be good. And then you show it to someone and it's great. It was a running joke in my family. I had Space Base. It was actually probably one of the first 10 games I ever purchased, and I just couldn't get it to the table because no one wanted to play Space Base. They're like, it can't be a good game. And I'm like, it's a really good game. And then literally every person I've showed this game to has loved it. And now I know you guys and some of this Tabletop Nights team I see on Tabletop Simulator playing Space Base. And
Well, yeah, it's
great.
funny because
It's just a good
it
game.
looks a bit blocky and clunky, and you go, well, yeah, a couple of little charge cubes and these tiny little space cards, the ship cards and things like that, and then you play it and you go, ooh, the strategy just comes out. There's probably, I'm hoping the other expansions and other things make a bit more. I'd like to see some intensified player interaction. Because quite often it's just stopping someone grabbing a card by you grabbing it or something like that. There's not many direct attacks. So I don't know if that's coming. Maybe.
Yeah, so for the viewers that don't know what Space Base is, it's basically a dice roller in which each of you are controlling your own little, I suppose, ship station. You have 12 ships on your board at any one time from numbers 1 to 12. And basically you're rolling 2 dice, and whatever the number total, it could be you rolled a 2 and a 6. You can use the ship abilities of your 2 and 6 ship cards, or you can use the ability of your 8 card. And that's kind of just the general gist of the game. And throughout the game, you're buying new cards. But where the magic of the game is your cards are better on other players' turns than they are on your own turn. So you're never out of the game. You're always interested in other players' roles, even more so than your own. Because when you're buying new ships, you're flipping the current ship in that slot. And when you flip the current ship, it gives you other things when other players roll it. So it may give you 1 gold every time someone rolls a 6, for example. So you're making like your numbers stronger, essentially. But the mechanic of the game is great. But you're right, Greg. There isn't a lot of play interaction apart from taking cards that they might want to buy later. There is literally only 1 card in Space Base that has any player interaction. There's 1 in the whole of the game. There's a card that when you roll a specific number and you have that card on your board, every other player loses 4 victory points. That's the only one. There's literally 1. So I don't exactly know what the other contents of the expansions give you, but that could be something they add.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind something like a few pirate ships or something, allow you to maybe pinch some gold or that kind of thing, or you might steal a ship or you might shoot a ship down and it has to be discarded or something like that. Look, there's the possibilities are endless because it's a great engine builder for yourself. And, Glenn playing the other day was getting heaps of combos, with the arrows.
Yeah.
He had like 4 arrows that went to the right on someone else's roll and he was coming up with 14 or 15 gold every turn. It was crazy.
Yeah.
So you'll most likely see a playthrough of that game in the next week or so. I've been wanting to play Here to Slay, which was one we've mentioned on a previous podcast. So they got like 36,000 views. Josh's webcam's frozen again.
It's a great look too. Yeah. Looks like he's going, hello.
He's got his Macca's cup. Here to Slay, so we'll be playing that. It's just the base version. I think Here to Slay had like an RPG story mode type thing. But yeah, this is just like the versus mode. We definitely want to do Blood Rage as well. That might be a Claire, Josh, Greg, and Glenn 1 too. So space based, and that might feature that. What's after trio?
A quadro.
Quadro.
We'll call it a quadro. There you
go. Yeah, so look, we've got heaps of stuff planned. The dice zone went okay. Now we've figured out how to do proper camera angles in Tabletop Simulator, so it's less like swishing around the board and more like cutting like we do when we play in person. Yeah. All right. Well, that's a podcast.
Already?
Yeah. Well, we've been going for like 45 minutes.
That's far too long.
Again, if you want to hear the audio version, it is available on anchor.fn/tabletop nights. Also, we live stream these randomly at twitch.tv/tabletop nights, so you can follow us on there, and that way you'll get a notification when we do go live, and you can leave us live comments and stuff, which is awesome. But thank you very much for tuning in, watching, or listening, no matter where you are. Josh, he's obviously really
I'm
loving
still,
that milkshake.
I'm still here.
Well, I
I'm
think
still here.
when we finish, I think you should try putting up a photo or something, maybe if this happens again, so that we don't see you in compromising positions.
That's
Yeah.
true.
You and Mr. Betts
That's
there.
true.
All right. Thank you very much for. It's so weird to say watching or listening.
Just call it whistling.
Listening, and next time we might have a quadro. So,
A quadro. Awesome.
all right. Until next time. See ya.
See ya.
Bye.